We will call the meeting to order. For those in attendance, we appreciate your patience with a late start. We had an executive session and we took a small break, so we appreciate your patience. Roll call, please.
Here. 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 Yes.
Here. Here. Here.
Present.
Present. May you please stand so we can lead us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We are now at approval of the agenda, but before we do so, I would like to make some changes. On the consent agenda item I, approval of I-Star cut scores, I would like to pull that off the agenda, as well as D, under new business, which is turnaround funds. The reason for the pull of I is simply because we need to do some more gathering with data for I-Star, so we just need a little more time with that. And the reason for the pull on D for turnaround funds is those who are being impacted are not in attendance, so we will keep as is at the last vote. So anyone disapprove of those changes on the board? Any concerns? Okay, having said that, we need an approval of the new agenda.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Approval of minutes from May 10th and June 7th.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any discussion? Thank you. Statement of chair, I would like to welcome our new members of the board. Welcome back to Tony Walker. So welcome back to the board. We look forward to working with you and we're pleased to have you. Also, Katie Moat, we are pleased to have you for the first time on the board. So congratulations on your appointment. We look forward to working with you as well. Also, I would like to recognize a couple of school systems that have gotten some national recognition. Wayne Township, which is Ben Davis, for many of you who may not know that, they had a 2017 Digital Content and Curriculum Achievement Award awarded by ISTE, which is a pretty big deal. So I don't know if anybody's here from Wayne. So congratulations to Wayne. Also, we have 8 teachers that are Indiana finalists to move forward for the Excellence in Math and Teaching Award. So we would like to recognize them, knowing that they will move forward for potential national recognition. For math, we have Sean Bird from Covington Christian. We have David Ferris from Noblesville High School. We have Diane Rodriguez from Bloomfield Junior Senior High, and Richard Zukowski from Anderson High School. So congratulations to those 4 in math. The 4 in science, we have John Jinsky from Penn Harris Madison, Kirsten Milks from Bloomington High School, Stacy Stroppingen from Greencastle Middle School, and Robin Whitty from Roncalli High School. So congratulations to those 8 teachers. In a time when it is difficult to find STEM teachers, it's a great thing to be able to recognize them. So congratulations to those 8, and we wish them well at the national level. Yes, we have them. Also, I wasn't here for last month's meeting, so I do want to recognize there were 73 schools that were recognized for AP honors in the state. Those are schools that at least 25% of their seniors had a 3 or higher on AP exams, and that is a huge accomplishment, so congratulations to those 73. I will not read those. And also we had 114 schools who were recognized at the end of May who their seniors complete, at least 60% of their seniors had their filed their FAFSA on time. So that 114 is up 9% from the year before. So we congratulate those schools, those counselors that have a lot to do with that. We do appreciate their work. So congratulations to those schools as well. And with that, I will ask if we have any board member comments or reports. Anyone?
I do have just a quick comment.
Sure.
Last month we approved waivers for Central Christian, Turning Point, Lutheran South, Unity, and Trinity Lutheran Schools in regards to vouchers. Do we have any and congratulations to those schools, by the way. For them to go from Fs or Ds and Fs to As and Bs is just quite remarkable. Do we have any data or information that says how they received, or how their children received from the year before did not pass to pass or pass plus? Do we know how they did that?
We can gather that information and bring it to you for next month, and maybe that's a potential for best practices so they can share.
Yeah, it's so remarkable that maybe they ought to be sharing with the rest of the world how they accomplished that.
We can get that data for you for August.
Do we know how many students, or can we find out how many students went from did not pass to pass or pass plus?
Yes,
From
we can
one
pull
year
that
to the
data as
next.
well.
Because that's how it happened. It had to happen that way. And on that list, we approved 4. Did I hear, Brian, were there 9 schools who were eligible to ask for a waiver under the new law? Do we know if the other 5 are interested in coming forth and asking for a waiver? Is there a deadline for that? Well, after the school year starts, they could come in and ask for a waiver, or is there?
So there's not really a particular deadline, but there are voucher windows. So there's a window that opens, or that closes in September. And then there's another window, I think, that opens in September and goes until January for applications.
I'm sorry, I can't catch the other conversation.
I was under the impression there were 2 windows. Marcia's under the impression there's 1, but...
Well, somebody will find out for us and let us know.
Yeah, in either case, though, September 1 is the deadline for voucher applications. But there's no deadline for them to come in and ask for a waiver.
So would the waiver be effective immediately if they come in October?
It would be effective immediately, but the window for when they can accept voucher applicants would be the relevant timeframe there.
Seems
So at
conflicting.
your request, Dr. Yeager, we will, for any school that went from an F to an A, we'd be happy to pull that information for the board and provide that and get some feedback on that accomplishment, because that is a big deal.
If we have more of those 5 that come forth, then I'd like for the board, if we can, receive data ahead of time on how many students went from did not pass to pass or pass plus, so we know that ahead of time and the impact of those changes. And if we could figure that out and get that to us before we have to act upon those.
Sure. And
Well in
again,
advance, not just a day in advance or the day of, well in advance.
Yeah, I mean, we'll provide the board, if we do get another, if we do get other requests, we'll provide that, provide it.
Okay, and Superintendent, thank you for the response on it. If we can get some feedback for the rest of the schools, voucher receiving schools as well as charter schools and all public schools, public and charter, I know charter schools, public school, but if we could get that information out to others and get that modified across the state, then we should see improvements across the state.
We can get some information to you.
Thank you.
Any other board member comments or reports? Okay, hearing none. Public comments. State board staff, do we have public comments?
Yes, we have 3.
Thank you. Good morning. I'll start my stopwatch. Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. My name is Steve Baker, principal at Bluffton High School in Bluffton, Indiana. Over the past 5 days, IASP, our Principals Association, and I have been contacted by many high school principals. They've contacted us for basically two concerns. First, we're all very concerned about the information in the Department of Education's weekly update that came out last Friday regarding general diplomas not counting in our graduation rate at the state level. We understand that this is a federal decision through ESSA. We also understand that the Department of Education and State Board of Education cannot change this in its present form. But we hope that moving forward, you can impact this in some way. We simply wanted to get out in front of this, that we do need your help. We need your understanding that this is a huge deal to high schools. The average general diploma rate for Indiana last year, I believe, was around 12%. This represents 8,600 students, with many of them being students with special needs who have IEPs. Although you may not be able to change this decision that's been handed down to us, we're asking that you look at all areas and consider creative options, including the accountability model, or possibly through legislation that will provide an accurate and fair representation of the great work that high schools in Indiana are doing. Our second concern is the decision around the College and Career Readiness, CCR, portion of the ECA plan that will be submitted to the feds. I serve on the accountability model panel, and I have had some conversations with various people about the 25% threshold needing to be raised to make it meaningful, differentiated. I get that. I agree with that. I understand why it has to be done, but may I offer the following thoughts on this? I suggest that this threshold be raised incrementally. Please remember that the new requirements for dual credit, which a large percentage of CCR will drastically change in 2022. We're already seeing the effects of this. This is a very interesting email I received from Ivy Tech. That's a large dual credit partner. This is an email I received a few weeks ago. Since the initial HLC extension ends September 1, 2017, after the school year started, all previously credentialed existing high school dual credit teachers may continue to teach through the 17-18 school year. However, all existing high school dual credit teachers previously credentialed for priority liberal arts courses must sign a plan or intent document by October 15, 2017. Based on this time frame, if we do not have a signed plan or intent from these teachers by October 15, then their dual credit agreement will be canceled effective the 18-19 school year. And basically what that means is if a teacher says, I don't plan on being credentialed with the new criteria from the HLC, they had till 2022, so we had 3, 4, 5 years to at least continue to use it. Ivy Tech says we will put an end to that 3 years sooner. And I have some teachers who are part of that who are going to retire by 2022 that I thought could be dual credit credentialed through then, who now will be cut short. At Bluffton High School alone, that will impact us by 25% even before 2022 takes place. In closing, I'd like to share with you an email I received from a fellow high school principal that sums this up very well. He said, I've been looking at this closely since it was put out on Friday. These two issues combined will have a major impact on schools throughout the state. As seems to always happen, the schools with greater economic disadvantages will be impacted to a much greater level than those schools with minimal economic disadvantages. Unfortunately, school grades, accountability, etc., seem to be basically a measure of the community's economic situation. I know you're aware of these concerns already, but I just want to remind you that high schools are impacted due to graduation rate and CCR. We will also are still feeling the impact of the low I-STEP math and English scores, and we also have the uncertainty of how we will fare with the new ECA exams. We're not asking for any breaks or handouts. We're just simply asking these concerns to be considered when you're addressing ESSA and diploma requirements. As always, we're ready and willing to be part of the solution process. Thank you for your time. Yes, sir.
CCR, we're currently at, what's the number we're currently?
25% is the threshold you have to hit in order to get the full 100 points in the CCR category. And then that counts for 30% of your grade.
Okay, and that exists today, 25%?
Correct.
And are you saying that there's a movement or an effort to increase that?
That's my understanding. We've had a little bit of talk in the accountability panel, but yes, it's my understanding that that will need to be addressed.
To what number?
I don't know.
How and when will that be established? Maybe I'm asking the wrong person.
So, yeah, we're going to cover a lot of this in the working session. And remember, a lot of that would have to be approved by the state board through rulemaking, and that takes a while. We have a lot of concerns that you shared. I appreciate you bringing those up. We've also heard from the field. There are a lot of people that are a little panicked, very concerned. I will tell you, we have been on the phone almost daily and in presence daily, almost daily with the SBOE. And so what we were told initially was we would have a lot of state flexibility, and what we're finding is there may not be as much flexibility that we would have thought originally that we were going to be allowed. So our concern is, getting ESSA approved, and so we have some really difficult decisions to make. Our goal is not to set high schools up or districts up as a whole to, so Indiana has a lot of failing schools. Obviously, that's not good for anyone. Right. And so, but we have a lot of difficult decisions to make. A lot of states who submitted ESSA plans ahead of us are feeling the hit of this. What kind of compounds this is because of the news we recently got about our graduation rate, that we really pushed back as a department. We made several calls and tried to plead our case. We did an internal review. We had them come in. We looked at everything, laid it out. But because of some powers to be, we are where we are. So we will continue to have conversation. But we hear your concerns. A lot of us share those same concerns, and the board has a lot of difficult decisions to make.
From what I'm hearing, no one's blaming the state board at all. We feel in the field, can't speak for everyone, but we feel that you have our backs and you support us. We do feel that way. And that's why, again, I wanted to come this morning and say before the work session, just wanted to hear our voice and say, please keep those same consideration. But we do feel that what you are saying, that you do represent us, you are our voice. So that's why I felt comfortable coming here and talking today. So thank you.
Did we get those comments in the minutes?
Those comments. I like it. I keep going if you want. I keep going.
I'm just a quick question. I'm just curious around from the federal definition around general diploma, and what differentiates between what we're doing at the state and what the federal government, what are the differences?
Marcia, you've been on the phone the most time with them. It has to do with the diploma that's given out.
The language in ESSA requires the graduation rate be based on the diploma that is given to the predominant number of children. And the statutes in Indiana make it very clear that that is the core 40 diploma. The federal government is not saying that a general diploma is not valid. It's valid. It just will not be included in the calculation of the graduation rate because ESSA doesn't allow for it.
Completely illogical. Really, I mean, just from that perspective. So if we were to call our diploma a general diploma,
well,
I'm just curious. I mean, is it titles? Is it?
Well, to some degree.
So let's say the majority of our students move into an academic honors, then the core 40 becomes irrelevant as well?
That would be
under that definition,
under
correct?
this lot. The federal United States Department of Education, as you know, some of this problem is created because the regulations that were put into effect for ESSA at the beginning of the new administration were all rescinded. There are no regulations. That is really an extraordinarily unusual situation for a statute as complicated and comprehensive as ESSA. Without regulations to detail and explain, they're left with interpreting only the language in the statute, and that's what the statute says.
How many states have the same concern we do?
I can't tell you exactly how many. I think there are others that give out various kinds of diplomas. But again, as you suggest, what things are called in the statute may very well make a difference.
In the state statute? Sorry, Vance, the state statute?
Yes.
Let me give you another example. So we call ours a Core 40 with academic honors, Core 40 with technical honors. We have a general diploma. So under our statute, if we had a general diploma, a Core 40, an academic honors diploma, and a technical diploma, under that definition, academic honors diploma and technical diplomas would be exempt or removed from our graduation rate.
No, they will include those because they see those sort of as subsets of the Core 40.
Is that because of our definition of it?
I think that's part of it, yes.
That's what I'm saying. Right now, that's what we call it. If we were calling it something else, if we had 4 different diplomas, from that definition, the one that is predominantly awarded would be the one used for the graduation rate.
Correct.
Right. Even if one exceeded.
Well, no, they would look to see how many kids are getting which diploma, and that's the one that they say you must base your graduation rate on.
I'm saying, so anything outside of that would be excluded.
Well, that's exactly right. That's what they're saying about the general diploma. They're saying you can offer it. It's valid diploma. We, the feds, just will not allow you to include it in the calculation of your graduation rate. Well, there are issues in the statute, in the Indiana statute, that allow for both waivers and opting out of Core 40. For example, one of the statutes indicates that a parent can opt out for their child from a Core 40, and then they get the general diploma. There's also a course for special education students to get a general diploma. There's a waiver process for students that are unable to pass a certain amount of the Core 40 courses. All of that allows then those students to get the general diploma. One solution, I'm not proposing this, I'm just saying, is statutorily to revamp the language.
Exactly where I was going.
Another possible solution is to revamp the Core 40 curriculum to allow perhaps those students who waive out of it and get the general diploma to somehow be able to continue forward to get a Core 40 diploma. Then everybody gets counted.
So statutorily, I don't want to interject, Vince, are you complete? You concluded? Okay. Statutorily, we need a change from our state legislators to re-identify general diploma.
Well, I think I wouldn't presume to say exactly that that's the only fix. There may be other ways to fix this. Perhaps, as I said, by expanding the Core 40 curriculum, but certainly a statutory fix may be part of that. Mm-hmm. What do we call it? You know, what does it look like? That may be enough to satisfy the concerns that the Department of Ed has, the U.S. Department of Ed.
So what's wrong with the term Indiana diploma? And then anybody who wants to certificate up to Core 40, college and career readiness, or technical diploma, or whatever other diploma is, so that everybody in the state gets an Indiana diploma. And then if you want to certificate up, would be a great thing. And schools and school systems can be rewarded for their counselors who work hard to get, it's going to put pressure on counselors, to get kids enrolled into Core 40 and enrolled into career tech and so forth.
Well, I think that's certainly a consideration. I think when regulations are going to be looked at that go along with the new assessment and go along with new accountability and go along with the graduation pathways, that the issue of diploma and what will be counted in the graduation rate would appear to be, that would all appear to be an appropriate time to discuss what is the solution for the graduation rate.
Did we find out what other states did to get around this issue?
Oh, we're in the process of finding that out.
And you can keep us informed?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Any other questions or comments for Steve?
Thank you.
Thank
I do
you.
appreciate it.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you, and good morning, Superintendent McCormick, board members, staff members, and others present. I'm Carol Craig, and I'm an educational consultant and spent many years in education in various capacities. I'm here this morning to discuss part of the accountability section of our ESSA plan. And I first want to say that I am honored to be on one of the work groups. I'm on the student support work group, and we've had great discussions, we've had great leadership. We appreciate what's been done by Patrick McAllister and all the others because they've been good listeners and they've guided us well through our discussions. But this morning I want to talk about the accountability section. In the accountability section, it indicates that as a board, you will make the decision on the minimum number of students, which is called the N size. And I do have a handout I'd like to share with you. Is there someone that would? In looking at the issue of the minimum number of students, as you know, this is very critical for us, and particularly in our state when we have some huge achievement gaps. And in the handout that I'm sharing with you, I know this is information that you regularly see and that you work with, but I think we need to always concentrate on it because there is such a huge disparity between different ethnic groups, between special education students, between low-income students, our ELL population, and so forth. But when you look on the DOE website, and this was the most recent that I found was 1314. I don't know if more recent was available on your website and I just missed it. But when I look at that graph, and I remember from years past, it still stays the same in terms of the gap between different ethnic groups. For example, between white students and African American students, or between general ed students and special education students, some of these gaps are as large as 30 points or more, 30 percentage points or more. And we know all children can learn, so why is this gap being persistent in our state? So we have to look at, in our plan, in the ESSA plan, if we look at what's the purpose, it actually goes back to the original ESEA, which is a civil rights law with the primary purpose of ensuring that historically underserved students have equitable access to the educational opportunities they need to reach their full potential. Knowing the achievement level of individual students is fundamental to knowing whether the purpose of this law is actually being fulfilled. So we've got to be sure when we look at that minimum number of students, are we doing service to each and every child that needs to be served? States are responsible for setting the minimum number of students needed to form a student subgroup for federal reporting and accountability purposes. This required student subgroup size is commonly referred, of course, as the N size. So states should set this number as low as possible to maximize the number of student subgroups created. This will ensure that states identify student subgroups with low academic performance and have low high school graduation rates, and provide the targeted interventions to support those students. By being on the student subgroup work group, I believe we have really put together some great interventions that you will see in the draft under number 6, student support. And we're still working on that. We have another meeting coming up, in fact, next week. And so great strategies have been put in place to serve all students. But if all students aren't included, those students won't be served. So if we have a high N size, and a high N size would be considered anything above 20 or above, for many students, especially our special education students, low-income students, students of color, then they make up half of K-12. So these students would not be served by the great interventions and resources that are provided. And I want to make a point, as a former principal, I was principal for 9 years in middle school in Indianapolis Public Schools. And I know that we have a lot of hardworking teachers, we have a lot of competent teachers, we have competent leaders. So those leaders are throughout the state. But if they don't have the resources to serve all their students, then they're not able to close those gaps. And the only way we can really put that in place in Indiana is that we have it in the accountability plan, and we have it low enough to capture all students. One of the things I know that everyone worries about is will we be violating the privacy if we set it too low? And in reading the document that I've shared with you, which is on the next page, that document comes from the Alliance for Excellence in Education. And they're a well-known, established organization that studies all of these equity issues. And they've reported that there are statistical methods available. And I'm not a statistician, but there are statistical methods available to ensure that the privacy, when you get it low, is not violated. And they've even indicated that there are states who have even made it as low as 5, and there is one state where it's actually 0, and they're still able to protect all students. So my point this morning, as an educator and one who continually works to serve children, I'm retired now, but I work to serve children every day, to do what we can to help all children. And so I'm asking you to consider a low in size on that minimum number of students for the subgroups. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Carol. Any questions, comments? Dr.
Just a
Burkham?
question. Thank you again for sharing your thoughts and so forth. I want to distinguish between two things,
Yes.
just for clarity purposes. There's one on the in size around accountability.
Right.
And how we categorize and how we try to capture as many students as possible. I think historically the issue has been around student identifiable information and making sure we don't create in sizes that will allow students to be identified around certain types of issues. But I think there's also a very big difference. Intervention schools provide for all children. You don't have to have an in-size category to provide interventions.
That's correct.
Right? So if a student is in need, it may be one student, school can provide intervention. That's a completely separate issue from the in-size around accountability purposes. Would you agree with that?
Not necessarily, sir, and I certainly see what you're saying, but when you really read the literature on it and the research, it doesn't require that a system address them. And if we're talking about resources that come from the state, and as the State Department is looking at all schools and trying to determine how to serve them, if we look at the accountability and we're looking at different schools to see how are these schools performing as opposed to other schools, then I think they're very much connected. In fact, I looked up a couple of schools that were rated A. I looked them up on the web for their latest scores, and I had some assistance, so I was able to get to the 15, 16 I-STEP scores and I-READ scores for these well-known schools that had A. These schools had a huge gap between white, Hispanic, African American, as well as general ed, special ed. So the question is, why weren't these students being served? What was it? Did the State Department, did the folks who are above the school, are connected with the school, the partners, did they realize that there are students in this school that needed interventions? What was missing? Why did this happen? And again, sir, when we look at it, this is not a phenomena just for 1 year or 2 years. I've been involved with this so long and I've studied this data. This is persistent. And so we don't want that to happen. We want to close all gaps, even those that show up in the accountability plan. There's some gaps there. So why are we still having that?
I think from a school perspective, when you get data around student performance, you're going to provide interventions to help those individual students improve their performance. So, which to me is a very different issue of how they're categorized.
I hear what you're saying, but we still have something, there's something wrong. Something's amiss. There's some systemic issue when we continue to see data that looks like this. So I see what you're saying, but if we keep studying this, we ought to be able to get at how are we going to close this gap?
And just so the board knows, this is also an issue that's going to come up in the work session. I know it is something that every state's grappling with, that N number, so, and what that looks like and where we go with that. So the board will receive data and information so that we can make some really good decisions.
Thank you, thank you. And I did include, if you don't mind me saying, the letter from the civil rights organizations that was signed in July 2016.
Thank you. Any other questions for Carol?
Yeah,
Yes.
just one question. What do you think the in-size number should be?
10 or less.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Morning.
Morning. It's so wonderful to be back and to see everybody. I have missed you guys. For the new people who just came on, welcome. You guys have always worked real hard for the state of Indiana, so I want you, first of all, to know I'm very proud of you. I just want to piggyback. My name is Irma J. Lauderdale, originally from Northwest Indiana, now here in Indianapolis, Indiana, in the Wayne Township area. So if you seen me earlier do one of these numbers, I had great reason to. My granddaughter is attending school in Wayne. Also, 2 months ago, I attended a parent training conference. I'll tell you a little bit more about that. But the one thing I want you to know is, surprisingly, I featured the Wayne Township School District. And I want you to know that the parents of the 6 different states that had a chance to look at that were astonished by some of the things that they offered in the Wayne Township area. Also, Superintendent McCormick, I had a chance to feature you as well. And our parents as well were astonished at some of the things you had accomplished in your lifetime before becoming superintendent. So we're all wishing you, the state of Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Ohio, Illinois, and Indiana is wishing you the best. I wanted to touch a little bit about some of the things that I heard this morning, and then I'll go back to one of the things the young lady who just came before us was saying, and that's because I am a parent advocate and have been working very diligently with this Title I program for the last 22 years. One of the things that the parents have often said was about the misappropriation of the funds. The funds were earmarked and written into law for low-income and disadvantaged children. And like she said, when you look at the achievement gap, we're wondering if this money was earmarked for them. Why isn't there a better layout for the parents to even understand what the money is being used for? For instance, if my child is having a problem in math, and my school district, once they take a survey and they really realize how many children might be suffering in that area or in that arena, why haven't we specifically set up some kind of program that would address that issue? A lot of the parents are concerned because we feel like we don't understand. And when I heard the gentleman come up and explain some things about our teachers and everything, we don't understand what's really going on. And one thing the law says, that federal law says, you must make it plain so that they can understand, so they'll be able to help in the advancement of their children. One of the things that we did at that conference was we provided information for our parents for that Title I program as it relates to the IDEA and the diverse learning. Also, we tried to set out information so they would also understand the 504 plan and the IEP program. Often, like was said earlier, our children of special needs, and I sit on the Governor's Council for parents and children with disabilities for the state of Indiana, and often those parents are left out of the fray. And it's unfair because we do know that money is allotted for them too. So as a parent, although I know you guys are doing a wonderful job, I said that earlier, their parents would like to be included so that our opinion will matter, our concerns will be heard, and that we will establish a better working relationship. I also appreciate the fact that you said that information shared is so important. When we meet with the other 5 states that I mentioned earlier, it's very important to hear the comments and the concerns of the parents. So again, from the state of Indiana, I'd just like to say thank you for all the hard work you're doing and continue to include us. I'm always available. God bless you and thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the board? Thank you very much.
Special thanks to you, Doctor, for all you did for our organization. We thank you.
Okay, we will move on to best practice. Seeing none, we'll go on to the consent agenda. Remember, we pulled off item I, so for the consent agenda, we need approval for A through H and item J.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any discussion? Thank you. No adjudications, new business of actions. Item A, Indiana State University Teacher Preparation Program.
Good morning, Superintendent and members of the board. Indiana State University seeks final approval to offer a Woodrow Wilson Foundation Master of Business Administration and Education Leadership Program. This program is designed to prepare approximately 45 building level administrators during the next 3 years. The MBA degree, which is conferred upon completion of this program, will be conferred by the School of Business and is designed to enable candidates to complete and be prepared for a licensure within 14 months. Candidates may apply for admission only if nominated, which is unique, and admitted candidates receive a fellowship from the Woodrow Wilson Foundation for approximately, I believe it's $50,000, which is a very nice sum of money, which can be used to cover tuition, instructional materials, and other expenses related to the program. After review from the IDOE Review Committee, it is our recommendation that the board approve this program. And I have Dr. Jack Maynard from ISU who is here to answer any additional questions you may have.
Dr. Freitas.
Good morning, Jack. Thanks for coming today, and I do have a few questions. I certainly support the program and will vote yes on it, but I did have some questions. This program is somewhat unique, and the board has voted in the past for unique, innovative kinds of programs, so hopefully they will do that again today. But yours is unique in that students will be going through your College of Business and receiving an MBA and then licensure as a school building principal. And it's my understanding that you do have the building principal licensure through your School of Education also. So you're running parallel programs. So how is the MBA program different than your, I'll call it a traditional School of Education licensure program?
You know, the MBA, concept of the MBA was driven by the Woodrow Wilson Foundation. Art Levine in particular was very concerned about the quality overall of leadership programs and was looking for maybe a new model to see if there are some knowledge and content that comes from MBA that would have application to the world of education. And they began very small with a couple experimental programs and expanded it, added 3 new programs at the same time we came on board. We have tried to do our best to make sure that the MBA does align with the the required standards for school administrators. But there are differences. You cannot spend as much time on some of the curricular content and so on if you're focused on issues of human relations management, strategic planning, change processes, etc. There's some things that are different. What we did that was different than the other partners is that our faculty from the College of Education's Ed Leadership Program and the faculty from the MBA program together worked to design this program. Every course, you had at least one education faculty member, one business faculty member, and often a practitioner who looked at that course to see what are the essential concepts of business that must be retained, what are the concepts that could be contextualized into an educational situation, and try to design a course in that manner. In some cases, we have team teaching going on with business and education faculty. Other cases, there are guest visits by education and practitioners. We've just finished our first cohort. Our first 13 students will complete their master's degree this month, and we are very proud. Performance-wise, they've done extremely well in their classes and so on. They've had to complete their principal's practicum consistent with our traditional program, and they've done very well with that. It's going to take years to determine whether or not this is a better way. These young men and women will have to be placed in leadership positions, and we will see over time if it begins to produce a better agent. One of the other unique pieces of this program, and I'll answer any other questions, is that after graduation, we provide 3 years of executive coaching. Woodrow Wilson supports that, so we have built a coaching program where each of these young men and women will have an executive coach. We also are working closely with the Indiana Principals Leadership Institute and the Indiana the Administrative Leaders Institute, ANALI, and taking advantage of some of their offerings for professional development, to complement the master's degree. So we're pretty proud of what we put together, but it's going to take some time to determine if this really is comparable. We're very proud of our Ed Leadership Program. We were hesitant initially to jump on board with this. We had considerable conversation among the faculty about was this something we should invest our time and energy into. But at the end of the day, when we looked into it, we felt, and the faculty agreed, we have a lot to learn working together. And it's been amazing to see the respect between those two faculty in the acknowledgement that they do a lot of the same things. There are some differences, but whether or not this thing has a life beyond the Woodrow Wilson program or not will be a better program in both the MBA and our Ed Leadership program.
I would urge you to do that studying and figuring out whether this is a better way to prepare aspiring school principals or not. And so what can we learn from the innovative program? So I'll look forward maybe in a year or two for you coming back.
This is a national research project. There are programs in New Mexico, there are a program in Wisconsin, and there's 3 programs in Indiana. So this research project will look at this whole composite body and to see whether or not there's sufficient data that will answer some of the questions that we all have.
So is the fellowship organization going to conduct this report and do the research and then?
Yes.
Okay, would you be sure to get that?
Absolutely.
At least to me, I don't know if other people are interested. The other question I had, one of the features of the program is that these graduates, after, I believe it's 14 months program, the expectation is that these individuals will be hired by their school. And I got a long report, I just remember reading that, and it's a great feature if a student can complete the program and then be hired within their school district to be a school leader. What's the opportunities for these students? You think that's a highly likely possibility or just a goal?
More than a goal, Woodrow Wilson makes it clear, as was mentioned by Scott, the first step is a district leader has to nominate the young man or woman for consideration. After nomination, then we contact the teacher and invite them to apply for the program. In making the nomination, the district indicates that within 1 year of completing the degree program, that they will place them in an administrative position. That's part of the understanding going into it there. Now, things are different if you're sitting in a district where you've got 3 school leaders. 6 administrators, you're sitting in a district the size of Wayne Township or Indianapolis schools. Those are great variances right there. And we recruit statewide, so in our first cohort, we have 3 students who are from very, very small districts. And there's a challenge. There wasn't a vacancy as an assistant principal or a principal to move them into. So, districts are being creative. They're creating opportunities for them. They may become a special assistant to their principal to get some experiences. But we're hoping, we don't want these young men and women to leave their districts. We made that very clear with the process. This is not to train them and then they get on the road and go somewhere else and get a better salary or something. This is to invest in that district. It may be a challenge for some of these small districts. And Woodrow Wilson is working with us. We say 1 year, if they're making progress in a district, is recognize that and giving them increased responsibilities, I think we're okay. But this is new territory. Theoretically, we can request that $50,000 be paid back. Hoping that never has to happen. It's not a goal.
Jack, thanks for sharing this innovative program. I look forward to seeing the results on the research that's being done.
Dr. Bertram?
Just a couple questions. And Jack, thank you for being here and thanks for your leadership. And I think this I've seen and been involved with Woodrow Wilson and looking at a number of their programs over time. I'm curious, and I'm going to give you a couple of scenarios, and I just want you, if you could reflect on this, and then a question. One, I've seen even in many schools of education, particularly around certain content areas where they're taught separately from a school of education. They may take their education classes in a teacher's college and then go take their math courses in the math department. And there's very little interaction among those groups. What's going to be different around the content taught from the business school and the business courses relative to K-12 education? Are those courses being redesigned specifically for this program, or will they just go take a marketing class in the business school?
These are students in a cohort. They have their own classes. So if they're taking Business 621, Human Relations, Human Resource Management, that course is restricted to this cohort of students. It was redesigned to be contextualized to the issues that school districts face in managing their human resources. So with this 3-year program, we were able to have separate courses. As I said, we had education and business faculty looking at that. And in that course, it's team taught. We have one of our faculty in education meets with that class every day and helps to contextualize the human relations content to that. First and foremost, it has to be an MBA. So just yesterday, these students took 6 hours of exams where we will test their knowledge against all other MBA students, no matter what program they're in. So they took that test yesterday, and we will track that to see whether or not that we have been true to what the MBA is. And we also require that they take the licensure program exams. Right now, we've had 7 students who have taken the exam. 6 passed it the first time, and 1's retaking it this month. But all the courses, at least in our 3-year design, are specialized for just educators. Whether or not after the 3 years and programs continue, we can afford to do that is a question. It would depend on the market, whether or not there's sufficient demand that says if we offer this course, we can recruit the enrollment necessary to have separate courses.
Thank you. And then my other question, it really deals with what happens next for these particular candidates. So they go through the MBA program, they become licensed as a school principal. What's next for them, and how do you see this integrating into perhaps your doctoral programs or a district leadership position?
Well, that's a question that we have begun to have on our campus. I've had the opportunity as director of the program to have conversations and meetings with superintendents, and there's clearly a recognition that there's content in the MBA that is very appropriate to the challenges facing district leaders. And we've had conversations whether or not we should ask the College of Business to bring some of those courses into our PhD program. And that's a possibility right now. We're having that conversation as to whether or not we can do that. We've got the creating pathways so they can go from the MBA in education to the PhD program without having to duplicate courses. We got those pathways created. But we're having that conversation. It's one that, but the faculty, to be honest, I'm a former dean of education. I know how protective we can be of our bases, and College of Business is just as protective. In this case, the faculty very quickly developed a respect and camaraderie that is nothing I've seen in my 40 plus years of higher education. They truly are working together, and they understand they have something to learn from each other. The people in business aren't going in saying we're much smarter than the folks in business and the folks in education and so on. They've been amazed when we bring principals before them who talk about the challenges that they're facing, and they're challenged to see how can we modify that content to help them do the issues. I'm optimistic that we'll be a different institution and have different quality of programs, whether or not there's an MBA in ed leadership, 3 years from now or not, that we'll be a different place because of this experiment.
Any other questions or comments?
Just to comment as a Sycamore. First of all, in my current role, we have had access to a similar program for many of our teachers in our district, and it has been a phenomenal experience. They have grown exponentially during those 14 months. They've come out on the other side as great leaders, and so I wish you the best.
Any other comments? I too would like to thank Indiana State. I went through the PhD program, the EDS program. You had me for a while, but I will say you have served a lot of, beyond just teachers, but administrators that are still practicing in the field and have done a great job for Indiana. So great job to ISU.
Move to approve. Second.
All those, roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Can we also get it on the record that Dr. Bertram cut me off? Just saying, that's a first. Okay, item B, Shepherd Community Academy petition for freeway accreditation.
Hi, good morning. I just wanted to give you an update on freeway accreditation and the issue before you today. During this past session, the legislature amended the statute related to freeway accreditation through HEA 1384. It is the practice of the department that prior to freeway accreditation, a school must have a 1-year observational period. HEA 1384 authorizes the state board to issue immediate accreditation to schools on a case-by-case basis. So our first school today seeking immediate accreditation is Shepherd Community Academy.
Good morning. I want to thank you for the opportunity to share about Shepherd Community Center and our academy. My name is Andrew Green. I'm the Chief Program Officer at Shepherd Community Center, and we are a nonprofit, Christ-centered ministry on the Near East Side of Indianapolis. And we have been working on the Near East Side community for the past 30 years. And over that time, we've created what we call a continuum of care that works with kids and families from birth through college, and the family along the way as well, and really seeks to come alongside families and help them break the cycle of poverty. And of course, we know that academic achievement is a huge part of breaking that cycle of poverty. And so in 2000, we started a small preschool and have since grown to not only focus on early childhood education, but also on the kindergarten through 5th grade. And so for the past 4 years, we've been operating in partnership with Horizon Christian School, which is on the northeast side of town. And we have been a site of theirs for the last 4 years. What we know about our particular student population is that we have a very large English language learner population, over 50% of our students, and a large low-income population as well, with about 95% of our students qualifying for free or reduced lunch. And this is because we work only with students from our neighborhood, so that is basically the 46201 and 46203 zip codes here on the Near East Side of Indianapolis. And because of that unique context and our large ELL and low-income population, we recognize that our students need unique and creative solutions, and that will need to look different from our previous partnership with Horizon. And so we want to pursue that autonomy, and we want to fully utilize funding to pursue those types of solutions. And we feel like with that local control, we can invest more into the students specifically on the Near East Side. One of those specific ways we'll do that is through a focus on professional development. We're pursuing partnership with Marian University to strengthen our professional development for teachers and administrators. We'll focus on how to better link curriculum and instructional practices to student outcomes in a low-income ELL environment. Additionally, we're targeting parent engagement for student success strategies. We feel like that's another, of course, an important way to support our students. We'll also be sending our current overall school leader to the Indiana School Leadership Fellowship Program this fall as another way to support our students. We know that our students can excel. We've seen them grow from year to year. Our growth scores of over 100 for both math and English language arts demonstrate that potential, and we believe that we'll continue to see that growth in proficiency. We've seen very strong attendance and have growing enrollment at the school. We're continuing to strengthen our proficiency through a number of unique opportunities as well. I've already mentioned the professional development opportunities with staff and administration and parental engagement strategies as avenues for increasing student proficiency. We're also linking our ELL learning into our 6-week summer program. So many of the students that are part of our school also attend our summer program, and so our teacher who's leading our English language learning program during the school year is also a part of our summer program this summer, and working with those students who are in both programs. We also have tutoring in our after-school programs. Again, many students that are in school attend our after-school programs, and we have tutoring led by a licensed teacher in our after-school programs as well. And our students have additional one-on-one support during the school day throughout each day as well. We also anticipate that we'll see progress in proficiency as we've grown our 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade classes, and now we will begin to see students move succinctly from preschool through 5th grade. And we think that this will demonstrate students' progress in language specifically as they are exposed more consistently from an early age. And we're also filling out the class sizes in the older grades as we've solidified that pipeline again from preschool through 5th grade. So again, we appreciate your consideration in this matter, and we thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Mr. Henry?
Having visited Shepherd on several occasions as a volunteer, I just want to make the point that it's an extremely important organization on serving those who need a lot of help in Indianapolis. So just want to note the important work that you do. Quick question for you on your pre-K. Do you accept the On My Way students at your academy?
Yes, we do.
You do? Great.
Yep. We're at level 3 paths to quality in pursuit of level 4 paths to quality and accepting On My Way.
Great. That was my main point, was that that you're providing, level 3, looking for level 4, and I think that's important to recognize that you've achieved those, there's rigorous standards as it relates to the pre-K program. So congratulations on that, and look forward to your continuing good work. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Dr. Yeager?
I would echo that. Congratulations on your progress thus far. Does your school take vouchers?
Do.
Okay. I guess that was one of the questions I had. So why Freeway? What's your goal here? What's your purpose?
For initially, we've been able to accept vouchers through our partnership with Horizon, and so pursuing accreditation on our own is the effort to have that autonomy at the local level to be able to direct funding and strategies in a very specific way to a specific audience on the Near East side of our state.
For the funding through the leadership training and so forth, kudos to you for getting your leaders trained and working in that effort. We appreciate it.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, so do we have a motion to accept the accreditation?
So move to approve. Second.
Any other comments? Roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Yes. Thank you. Kenwell Academy petition for freeway accreditation.
Morning, thank you for your time. I'll keep this brief and leave time for questions. With me I have, my name is Roger Yantz. For 5 years I've been the campus administrator at the crossing in the Marion, Grant County area. With me I have 5 board members, our Kinwell staff, also have a student, Sarah Miller here, and Marion High School principal, Keith Burke. For 5 years I've worked at the Marion campus in Grant County, and for 5 years we've done very well as far as the crossing across the state goes. We've done really well in credits, we've done well in attendance, well in retention and some other things. And just here recently, we're just seeing such need in the Grant County area that we'd like to have autonomy of our local school. And with that comes obviously a lot of finances that would then be freed up to spend at the local level to do some programs that myself and our board feel would be very important to the students in Grant County. Namely, Grant County has a very high poverty rate. Right now it's at 28% child poverty rate, and which is really high up there in the state. And with that comes a lot of needs, and it's not just money needs, it's social needs, it's relational needs. It's something like driver's license, that our kids come into our school and leave at 18 without even having a permit, and that can be a real hindrance in life going forward. Plus the emotional needs that they need, the anger management type stuff. Grant County, unfortunately, really struggles with sexual assault cases. So a lot of our students have a lot of trauma that they come into school with. And while we pump them full of math and science and all these great things, they struggle with the emotional side, and that hinders them in their ISTEP and ECA and their scores and attendance and things like that. And so I want to have a very holistic approach at educating these students. We've partnered with Marion High School for 5 years now, and that partnership has only grown, and our purpose is to serve Marion High School and hopefully the county schools. We're wanting to get them on board as well, but primarily Marion High School. And in order to serve them better, I want the students to be more equipped when they walk out with a diploma. And I also want to do better at getting them diplomas. And so part of this Kinwell Academy, kind of the dream, is to do that, is to serve Marion High School as best we can. And I'd also like Terry Monday with us, who is a board member who's going to share on how we can impact the community, and also Keith Burke will speak as well.
Thank you. My name's Terry Mundy. I previously had 18 years of public school experience. I have 8 years as a public school superintendent in Indiana, and 20 years as vice president at Indiana Wesleyan University. During that time, I have seen a number of students who have what I would call fallen through the cracks. And what Roger is attempting to do, I've been a board member since the inception of the school, and what Roger and we as a board are trying to accomplish is to help those students who are falling through the cracks. We need to provide them with some educational opportunities. We need to provide them with some social skills. We need to provide them with any number of situations that will show our love and appreciation for them as a human being. And so we're here today to ask that you give consideration to Kinwell.
And as Keith comes up, I'll explain our partnership. We want to take the students that Keith would otherwise expel or would be withdrawn, and give them a last chance with us before they go on the streets for a semester, or for a year, for permanent, whatever the situation may be. And so that's how we partner with Marion High School.
Roger, can I ask you a question real quick?
Yeah.
So do you exclude any students from that opportunity that would be in need?
No. The ones we would exclude are the ones that want to come to our school because they have a friend with us or because they want to try to graduate early. We don't want those types of students. We want the students that are struggling, and for whatever reason they're struggling, crime, pregnancy, whatever it may be, we want to take those students.
Speaking on behalf of Marion Community Schools, we've had a great partnership with this group. And the one thing I can tell you is that they are mission motivated and care about children. Unfortunately, sometimes a traditional public school is not the right fit for every student. Regardless of how much you try, we have a great alternative program, but sometimes we can't reach certain learners. We can't get them what they need. And this partnership has definitely helped some of those students that would have been, unfortunately, throwaway children. A student that I have to expel, that according to my policy, I have to get them out of the school. The fact of the matter is what we do is we give them an alternative to that, an opportunity to grow and learn in really loving situation. It's not just about the education. It's also about the fact that they're mentors, that they help these students through the tough times, that they spend a lot of caring time with them, and also teaching them social skills and character development that they need. So it has been a blessing for Marion Community Schools to partner with these individuals. The kids know that they love them. They know that they care about them. So you have Roger, the youth and exuberance, and then you also have a lot of board members with the experience in education that understand how it should be done and really do things right and care about kids. So Marion Community Schools fully supports this academy.
Thank you.
To conclude, these students we've grown to love, who are often the ones causing the most problems in a community, we found that the best way to help them is to get them out of their community, for short periods of time. So we like to go on trips. We do whitewater rafting in West Virginia. We've rappelled down mountains in Tennessee. Just anything we can do to get these kids out of their environment. And usually if we can get them where there's no cell phone reception, that really helps a lot too. And so we try to stay in the mountains. And we've just seen a lot of change. We see a lot of buy-in from these students who are normally a problem. And so through that, we see that we can turn these guys into leaders. And so these students who come to us with problems, we see that they're the ones leading their friends. And so we want to have an advanced leadership program through some type of work readiness program to help these students become just positive people in our community. Thank you. Any questions?
Questions or comments? Dr. Yeager?
So where's your facility located?
We're in downtown Marion.
Okay, not in the Marion School campus?
Correct.
Okay. And the way I read this, 75% of your students come from Marion schools.
Yes.
The other 25%, maybe you covered this, but I missed it. Can you tell me where the other 25% come from?
Yeah, a lot of students come to us off the streets from county schools. So we've tried to partner with county schools, and we're thinking now that if we could become independent, we might have better success partnering with county schools. But in the past, we've taken them in and tried to privately raise funds to get them in if they've come off the streets from, a county school.
Okay, and you're seeking freeway accreditation because, be specific.
Yes, we want to be able to issue credits and diplomas and hire licensed teachers just to be the best service we can for Marion High School and as well to these students. I think it's very important that we can have that autonomy to make the decisions on credits and
Your school number right now is Marion High School's school number, is that correct?
we are under the Crossing, Educational Center.
So is that yes or no? Was it, you're not under Marion High School?
Marion's
Okay.
school number.
But most of your clientele come from?
Right.
This is an important, your student body is an important part of our culture, and I appreciate the recovery that you're working with and for these students, and encourage you to keep it up.
Bertram?
Let's go questions, and again, thank you for all your efforts, and I also commend Marion Schools for your partnership in this kind of strategy. I think that is when we can collaborate to meet the needs of children, I think everyone wins in the community. You're in a separate facility, a non-Marion Community School facility, is that correct?
Yes.
Who pays for that?
We pay for that privately. So we have a local board that fundraises to
It would be interesting to see how facilities could be shared,
yes.
particularly as that program expands. It seems unreasonable to me that you'd have to go out and raise money to pay for a facility when facilities are owned by the community already.
Yeah, we agree.
There's unused capacity, is there an opportunity to share those facilities as well as shared services? So it's one to have children moving, but when you look at the infrastructure, it's already established by school districts, whether it's IT support, food service, and other things, and how do you leverage those services to reduce cost overall for everyone? I would encourage you to continue to expand or think about those kinds of relationships as well.
Yeah, we totally agree, and we've even met with Marion High School more often since this process begun about how we can do that. And Marion is, to go to your first comment, Marion has been unbelievable with wanting to rescue these kids who would otherwise be lost, and they are open arms with how we can partner in those areas.
I just see layers of cost that go to infrastructure and so forth that can be eliminated where we can provide more direct services to children. And anything you can do to maximize those resources to meet the needs of these children, I think would be highly desirable. So, thank you.
Yes, and that's even the purpose of this is, obviously being under a big umbrella like the Crossing, which is a great mold for so many communities, there's a cost that comes with that because you're paying for a lot of administration that's coming down. But we're thinking now we can keep that locally to not have to fundraise as much.
Your program is a perfect example of how the board is going to have some tough decisions to make regarding some of the graduation rate changes because of your population, and you're not alone in that. So we understand your struggles with that. We understand, too, what we're up against as a state, but just so you know, we recognize that, and we are trying hard to work for you.
That means a lot. Thank you very much.
Any other questions or comments?
Do you currently take vouchers? Are you allowed to take vouchers?
Through the Crossing, we were taking vouchers. We're hoping that with this new model, we would not have to take any.
Okay. How many, do all of your students receive vouchers?
No, through the partnership with Marion High School, they'd be funded through Marion.
Okay.
You would just get the state funding. They would transfer to your school. You would get the state funding for those students.
Yes.
Correct.
But it would not be a choice. I mean, typically those are students who are being, whatever reason, moved away from the traditional school setting, and then they can move directly into your program.
We do want to make it a choice. I think that's really important. So if a student meets with Mr. Burke and they're going to be expelled, we want to give them, hey, you have the choice of serving that expulsion, or you could go over here to Kinwell Academy and provide that choice.
Dr. McCormick, your comment regarding diplomas, this is a poster child for Indiana diploma.
Dr. Moat?
Thank you. You've spent a lot of time talking about sort of the wraparound services pieces and the holistic support, which I think has been very well received. I think there's also another element in what you're doing that we should hear about, specifically your job training program and the work that you're doing to get your students aligned with your local business and industry so that they can have meaningful employment once they successfully complete. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes, absolutely. And a lot of our local board has been big behind that because they're business owners themselves in the community and they're having a hard time hiring from our community. So they're very passionate about this program. And the main way that we see it benefiting in Grant County is through internships. We want to, every senior, be part of a very detailed, involved internship. And then also partner with local businesses that would want to take on more than one student with a very strict kind of regiment and an oversight by our staff. We don't want to put that burden on the local community business owner, but we want to take that as a staff. And so with that, we want to have a job training person. That's all they focus on, as well as doing other kind of life things. But we want them to be in the businesses, in our local businesses, learning what do they want to do for a living, and also gives them purpose. And so if they want to work in a veterinarian's clinic, we want to have them in an internship, and then evaluating how is this going, what do you think, and really have it one-on-one with an internship level.
Dr. Bertram?
Just one more question. You mentioned the relationship with employers, and some of your board members are local business owners. When they're looking at students, do they hire students who have dropped out of high school?
No, most do not hire.
Do they require a high school diploma?
Are you talking about our local board?
Or local employers in your experience?
Yes.
And do they accept the general high school diploma as that credential?
Every time, sir.
I thought maybe that'd be the answer. And thank you.
Dr. McCormick, may I ask one follow-up question in relationship to that? Can you also talk about the certifications, industry-recognized certifications that the students are also earning? I think that's very relevant to this conversation we're having with regard to the general diploma, and how can it be more meaningful in relationship to outcomes for students? So can you talk to us about that as well?
Yes, great question. Thank you for bringing that up. We want to make sure, so if our students are doing internships, we want to make sure that there's certifications that come along with that they can put in a portfolio. So when they graduate with a diploma, there's a portfolio with them that they can use as resumes. And we want our students, they spend a lot of time working in our community parks department this year, working with the road crew and the parks department, planting flowers and doing mulch beds and planting trees. And so we want to have certification documents that show that these are skills that they have learned and that they know, and we think that sets them up better for the future. And so as wide as we can get that, the better. And I feel like we've just scratched the surface in Grant County this last year with partnering with our Parks Department, and our city loved the partnership. A lot of the city workers became mentors to our students and developed a deep relationship. And so it built job references for them as well.
Any other comments, questions?
Does, Kenwell, what do you do with iStep now? And iLearn in the future? I mean, your students involved?
Yes, and that's something else that I wasn't able to get data for you, unfortunately, because I'm no longer employed with our previous school. We feel very confident in our iStep and previous ECA scores and our ability to remediate these students, because we think that there is a mental barrier to these students doing well in iStep that's beyond just the knowledge of algebra and English. And that's something that we're really tapping into, and we saw great success with that this year. And so we want to be even more, have more autonomy with that than what we've had in the past.
You paper, pencil, or electronic?
All electronic so far.
Any other comments, questions? We have a motion to approve Kenwell Academy petition for freeway accreditation.
So moved.
Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Harvey.
And the last item under new business, and I promise we'll take a break, graduation pathway panel.
So moved.
Oh, no one's going to present on that? Okay, do we have a motion to accept the panel?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes.
Dr. Yeager?
Okay, this comes out of 1003, correct?
Yes.
There are 9 members on this panel. Did 1003 define the number, A, the number of people on the panel, and B, what their role is? For example, we have, and I appreciate 4 board members who have stepped forward and volunteered to be on this panel, and there are 5 others. Representative Boehner and, of course, Senator Cruz, House and Senate Education Committee chairs. Is there a number, or are the panel members defined?
No, the statute just says in consultation with CHE and DWD, and so beyond that, it's the board's discretion.
Say that again, into the mic.
The statute requires consultation, that the board consult with CHE and DWD. The statute also makes it clear that it is the board's responsibility to define what these grad pathways look like. Beyond that, it's up to the board's discretion.
So why do we have 9? And who is this a department that, there's just the state board that identified these panel members, or?
This is a Steve Board staff recommendation in consultation with the board member that made the motion.
So why are we at 9? And as I look through the list, I know that Dr. Ernest and Dr. McCormick and Dr. Freitas all have backgrounds in education. Mr. Watts is a current classroom teacher, and that's it. There's only one classroom teacher or person involved directly at the ground floor of education as it exists in Indiana that are on this committee. And were there not more people identified for membership? And I'll stop there.
Yeah, so we had quite a few names submitted. We had, I think, about 30 names or more. And so what we decided is, rather than having a very large panel, we would have a lean panel, but that we would personally invite all those interested to present to the panel. And in addition, it would be open to the public, so anyone else that's interested could also attend the meetings and provide input.
But the only, I'm not sure how they're going to handle this, but only if there is a vote, would be from these 9 members. Is that correct?
It'd be a recommendation.
Recommendation? Who's the chair of this panel?
The chair is Dr. Ernest.
Dr. Ernest? Okay, thank you, Dr. Ernest. I guess it does say chair in here in my notes. I would think that unless we didn't have any volunteers or recommendations from building level counselors from across the state, counselors have a pretty good handle on graduation pathways and graduation needs that exist currently and may exist in the future for young people. So is there a reason we stopped at 9? Is there a reason we don't have ground floor private parochial accredited and public accredited folks on this panel other than Mr. Watts?
Well, so we sort of drew the line at government or quasi-governmental representatives, and then, again, just to reiterate, the decisions that this panel will, or the recommendations that the panel will make will be the result of input. I mean, the main function of this panel is to seek input from any stakeholder that wants to be involved during the time frame that the panel meets. So at some point, we had to decide, you know, a good number for the panel that's not too big, not too small, and then they will seek that input from stakeholders.
Depending on what research you read, 12 or 13 is a good number for panels and committees. And this seems to be short, in my opinion, of representation for recommendation, ability to recommend, along with other members of this panel. I'm quite concerned about being one classroom educator from across the state of Indiana. And I do, again, appreciate the leadership from Dr. McCormick, Dr. Ernest, and Dr. Freitas. But I think we're lacking in representation from practitioners. And I don't know if this is the time to get some more people who are practitioners, who work directly with girls and boys from across the state. I think that's very, very important, and we're lacking.
So I would just reiterate that to the extent that anyone wants to be involved, they can be involved however.
Yeah, I don't care about that. I do care about it. It's good that those people can be invited, but if they're going to be invited just as somebody who wants to present, I'm not sure, other than a panel member, I'm not sure how committed they're going to be to driving from corners of the state to the central part of Indiana. I think it's important that they are panel members, practitioners. That's very important to me.
Any other comments, Dr. Freitas?
This is a working group, is that correct? And the working group is empowered by the State Board of Education to make recommendations to this board. So it's not a group that's setting policy in any way, is that correct?
Correct.
And so there's nothing that can happen unless their recommendations come forward to this broader group where people in general can provide input, can come to the board, and any vote taken would be before this entire board. So there's many opportunities to provide input and change minds. In fact, many people come before us at a meeting like this and change my mind on some votes, frankly. So it's not an opportunity to exclude people, it's an opportunity to include as many people as possible, but you need a core working group, small enough that enough work sessions can be held, enough work can be done. And so I look at the list, I believe these are individuals who have committed to doing some pretty intensive work and pretty intensive listening from a variety of constituencies. And since you put together the nominees, is my understanding correct on that?
That's correct, and these meetings will also be live streamed, and staff will be providing, there'll be minutes taken, and so, all this will be made available to all of you as the panel continues to meet. So the goal is not to restrict anyone's involvement, but at some point there has to be a membership.
The other point I wanted to make is some of us have been advocating that the state board appoint their own advisory boards, and that has not happened in the past. This may be the first time that we're appointing our own advisory board, and I congratulate staff and my colleagues in making it happen. I think that any advisory board to the state board should be appointed by the state board, so thank you for that.
Dr. Bertram?
I agree. I think it should be appointed by the state board. I'm just not in agreement that 4 out of 9 members represent the state board. I think we have hundreds of schools across the country, and across the state, and I'm really interested in is the acceptability of the outcomes of this committee. And I think the acceptability means that we have to have people included and not just in providing information and knowledge to us, but rather part of the process. I think people, to build confidence and credibility of that, need to be in the middle of it, helping us work through many of the issues. So I'm in complete agreement with Dr. Yeager.
What's the harm in having informed practitioners as part of the ground floor of these recommendations? What is the harm?
Dr. McMahon, did you have a comment as well?
I was just going to concur that I felt that we needed to have some representation, especially from high school people that are most closely working in this area. To have more representation would bring credibility to the panel, increased credibility to the panel.
So do we have any other comments at this point? So do we have a motion to approve the panel?
That was already made and seconded.
Oh, we did?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Roll call, please, then. So that was our discussion. I'm sorry, I totally missed that. We had a motion and a second? Okay.
No.
Yes.
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 No. Yes.
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 No.
No. Okay, board, would you like to take a break now, or do you want to push on? Break? Okay, we will take a short 10-minute break, and then we will come back. Thank you.